It's 6:17 a.m. You wake up to a strange quiet. No phone buzz, no morning news jingle, just a dim screen that keeps spinning. You tap your banking app. It opens. Then it freezes. A gray box appears. Transfer is unavailable at this time. You refresh. Same message. You try the ATM on the corner. The screen is black. Not out of service. Black. Like a dead fisheye. Cars pull in one after another. Drivers step out, stare, curse, and drive off. Then you see the line. A line at the bank that looks like a concert line. Except nobody's smiling. People are holding envelopes. Some are holding paperwork. Some are holding nothing. Because they believe nothing could happen. And you realize what you never wanted to admit. Your money was never sitting there. Not in a vault, not in a drawer. It was a number on a screen. A promise. And promises break. Especially when the people at the top are cornered. They told you the system was safe. They told you the banks were well capitalized. They told you inflation was temporary. They told you silver was just an industrial metal. They told you gold was a relic. They told you to trust. They told you to sleep. And the sleeping herd did. Meanwhile, the awakened few have been watching the real signal. Not the stock ticker, not the talking heads, not the political theater. The signal is physical, heavy, cold, silent, silver. Because when a system gets sick, you don't watch the fever chart on TV. You watch what disappears first. And right now, the supply of real physical silver is getting tighter. Not in theory, in real life. Coins, bars, rounds, the stuff you can hold in your hand without asking anyone's permission. You can feel it in the premiums. You can feel it in the delays. You can feel it in the out-of-stock banners. You can feel it in the way dealers stop promising delivery dates. You can feel it in the way the price moves like a scared animal. And this is where people make a fatal mistake. They think the crisis starts when the headline hits. No, the headline is the funeral announcement. The crisis starts when the exits quietly narrow, when the lifeboats quietly vanish, when the metal quietly leaves the building, because the wealthy don't panic on camera. They reposition in silence. They move first. They leave the crowd holding paper. And when the crowd wakes up, it's too late. Let me tell you the ugly truth in plain English. The system you live in runs on confidence. Confidence in banks. Confidence in governments. Confidence in insurance. Confidence in promises. But confidence is fragile. It's glass. And you can hear the cracks now if you're willing to listen. Listen to the grocery bill. Listen to the property tax letter. Listen to the insurance renewal. Listen to the interest you earn on savings compared to the cost of living. Listen to the way people say it'll be fine while their eyes look worried. That's the sound of belief draining out. And when belief drains out, people do one thing. They grab what's real: food, fuel, medicine, and hard assets. Gold, silver. Because in a storm, nobody wants a contract. They want a life jacket. Now let's talk about the machine that created this mess. Because if you understand the machine, you stop being surprised. Banks don't store your money the way your safe stores cash. A bank deposit is not storage. It's a loan. You loan your money to the bank. The bank uses it, leverages it, moves it, trades it. And what do you get in return? A promise. A promise that you can get it back on demand. But here's the part they don't say out loud. That promise only works if not everyone demands it at the same time. Because if everyone demands it, there isn't enough. It's like a theater selling more tickets than seats. As long as the crowd doesn't show up all at once, the scam works. But when the crowd shows up, somebody stands in the aisle. Then the fighting starts. Now you hear people say, "Don't worry, the government insures deposits." Okay, let's use grown-up thinking. Insurance only works if the insurer can pay. And when the claims are massive, the insurer does one thing. It delays, it limits, it negotiates, it changes the rules. Because the government doesn't have a magic vault of wealth. It has a printing press. And when it prints, it doesn't create value. It spreads pain. Inflation is not an accident. It's a policy. It's the quiet way to make debts smaller in real terms while your savings buy less. It is the slow leak in the tire. You keep driving. Then one day you're on the rim. You worked for your money. You saved it. You skipped vacations. You packed lunches. You did the responsible thing. And the system punishes responsibility. Because savers are the prey in an inflation world. Debtors win. Printers win. Everyone else loses. This isn't a theory. This is math. When more currency units chase the same amount of real goods, prices rise. When prices rise faster than your income, your lifestyle shrinks. That's the math. And the math doesn't care what politicians promise at podiums. Now look at silver through this lens. Silver is not just an investment. Silver is a thermometer. It measures distrust. It measures stress. It measures the moment people start choosing reality over promises. And silver has another feature the system can't fix with a press conference. You can't print silver. You have to dig it out of the ground. You have to refine it. You have to ship it. You have to pay for labor, diesel, equipment, permits, and time. Time. Years. That's why silver squeezes are violent, because supply can't instantly respond, and demand can surge overnight. One news cycle, one policy change, one bank wobble, one war headline, one temporary emergency measure. And suddenly, everyone wants the same thing at once. Now consider this. A big chunk of silver demand is industrial. It goes into electronics, power infrastructure, medical equipment, solar panels, sensors, modern tech, modern life. It's not optional. And when silver goes into a product, a lot of it doesn't come back. It gets dispersed, lost, recycled slowly, if at all. So this isn't like gold, where almost all the gold ever mined still exists in bars and jewelry. Silver gets consumed, chewed up by the machine. That's why a tight silver market is not a small story. It's a warning light, a red one. And when the light turns on, the people who understand the game move first. They buy physical, they remove counterparty risk, they get out of the paper claims. Because paper is a promise to deliver metal later. Later is a dangerous word. Later is where excuses live. Later is where force majeure lives. Later is where cash settlement lives. Later is where the rules change. You've seen rule changes before. Retirement ages shift, tax codes shift, healthcare costs shift, interest rates whip around, fees appear, limits appear, new regulations appear. And each time the sleeping herd shrugs and says, well, what can you do? You can prepare. That's what you can do. Now we have to talk about the trap. Because when too many people try to escape at once, the system tightens the net. It always does. Not because they hate you personally. Because the system must preserve itself. And self-preservation means control. So how do they gain control? They digitize. They centralize. They monitor. They restrict. They call it security. They call it stability. They call it protecting consumers. But the end result is the same. Less freedom, more permission slips. Look around. Payments are getting faster, more digital, more trackable. That can be convenient. But convenience is often bait, because convenience trains you to live without cash. And when you live without cash, you live on rails, digital rails. Rails can be managed. Rails can be shut down. Rails can be rationed. Rails can be programmed. And that's where the conversation about central bank digital money comes in. You don't need a conspiracy to understand the direction. You just need eyes. Governments around the world have been exploring digital currencies and tighter payment controls. The language is always pretty. Efficiency, financial inclusion, anti-fraud, anti-terror. But the tool is the tool. A tool that can watch, a tool that can block, a tool that can limit. And once a tool exists, it gets used. That's human nature. Now, future pacing. Imagine this. You're 67, you're on a fixed income. Your pension is modest, your savings are your pride. You go to the grocery store, a cart of basics, meat, eggs, coffee, soap, medicine. The total is higher than last week. Again, you swipe your card. Declined? You try again. Declined. You call the number on the back. A robotic voice tells you there are temporary limits due to unusual conditions. Temporary. That word again. You drive to the bank. The lobby is closed. A sign says appointments only. You try to withdraw cash at the ATM. It allows $40. 40. You stand there holding 2 crisp 20s like they're rations in a war, and you realize something sickening. Your wealth is trapped inside a system that can say no. Now imagine you need to travel. A family emergency, a flight, a hotel, gas. You try to spend more than the weekly limit. Declined. Not because you're broke, because the system says you've spent enough. You feel your face heat up, not from embarrassment, from rage, because you did everything right. You worked, you saved. And now you're being treated like a child with an allowance. That is the future that programmable money makes possible. And whether it comes as a full-blown digital currency or a patchwork of banking controls, the effect is similar. More levers, more switches. More ways to trap you inside the machine. So what do? You don't panic. You prepare. You shift part of your wealth into things that do not require permission. This is where physical gold and silver matter, not as a lottery ticket, as a lifeboat, as survival, as freedom, as a bearer asset. Bearer means whoever holds it owns it. No counterparty. No third-party promise. No app. No password. No maintenance window. It's yours. Now let's talk about counterparty risk in a way that hits home. If your wealth exists as a claim on someone else, you are exposed to their failure. Bank deposits are claims. Brokerage balances are claims. Pensions are claims. Annuities are claims. Even some insured products are claims. And claims are only as good as the system behind them. In calm weather, that feels fine. In a storm, claims become questions. Will they pay? When will they pay? How will they pay? In what currency? With what restrictions? And that's when people learn the difference between being wealthy on paper and being wealthy in reality. Real wealth is what you can access when others can't. Real wealth is what holds value when trust collapses. Real wealth is what doesn't require a committee meeting to exist. Gold and silver have survived every political cycle, every currency collapse, every regime change, every new system, because they are not a promise, they are a thing. Now let's bring it back to silver, specifically. Silver is the metal of friction. It's small enough to be scarce, necessary enough to be demanded, hated enough by the paper system to be suppressed when possible, and loved enough by regular people to be accumulated when they finally wake up. That combination is explosive, because when silver starts to run, it doesn't move like a blue chip stock. It moves like a crowd finding the last exit, fast, chaotic, punishing to latecomers. Now here's the part you need to visualize. A silver squeeze doesn't end with everyone gets some. It ends with rationing. It ends with shortages. It ends with premiums that shock people. It ends with dealers saying, we can't source it. And when that happens, the price on your screen becomes almost irrelevant, because the only price that matters is the price you can actually pay to actually get the metal. That's stage 2. Stage 1 is price rising. Stage 2 is product disappearing. Most people wait for stage 1 to convince them. They watch charts. They argue. They demand proof. Then stage 2 arrives and the shelf is empty. And now their proof is a closed door. So what does a sane person do? They don't go all in. They don't bet the farm. They build a reserve outside the banking rails, a reserve they can control, a reserve that doesn't depend on somebody else keeping their promises during a panic. Because here's what the corrupt system does when things get ugly. It protects itself first. Banks first, markets first, bondholders first, politics first. And you get delays, you get limits, you get temporary measures. You get told to stay calm, you get told to trust. Trust the same people who told you inflation was temporary. Trust the same people who said debt doesn't matter. Trust the same people who bailed out reckless institutions while ordinary people paid higher prices forever. The awakened few don't do that. They diversify out. They lower risk. They hold real assets. They build a lifeboat before the water rises. And if you're thinking, but won't they just ban it? Won't they confiscate it? Listen, maybe not. But here's what history teaches. When governments get desperate, they reach for control. They change rules. They create emergency powers. They use crises as cover. That's not paranoia. That's pattern. So you don't wait until desperation is visible. You move while it still feels optional, while it still feels calm, while the sleeping herd is still arguing about whether anything is wrong. Because the best time to buy a fire extinguisher is before the kitchen is on fire. Now, I want you to picture 2 retirees. Same age, same income, same savings. One of them keeps everything in the system. Bank deposits, brokerage statements, paper claims. The other holds most of that too, but they also hold a portion in physical metal. Coins, bars, stored safely, accessible. Now a crisis hits, markets fall, banks wobble, news anchors say contained. People line up anyway. The first retiree watches screens. They refresh apps. They call hotlines. They get put on hold. Their world shrinks. They feel helpless. The second retiree still feels stress, but they also feel something else, options. They have a reserve that doesn't require permission. They can barter if needed. They can sell privately if needed. They can cross a storm without begging a broken system to cooperate. That is the difference. That is why physical metal is not about greed. It's about dignity. It's about not being trapped. It's about being your own central bank. Central banks hold reserves because reserves mean power. Reserves mean independence. Reserves mean you can act when everyone else is frozen. Now, does holding metal solve everything? No, nothing does. But it reduces one specific risk, counterparty risk. And in the next chapter, counterparty risk is the killer. It's the killer you don't see until the door locks. It's the killer that arrives wearing a suit and holding a press release. So here's your warning, plain and direct. Silver is flashing a signal. Supply is tightening. Demand is not going away. And the system is more fragile than it looks. You don't need to predict the exact day. You just need to recognize the direction. You prepare when it's boring, because when it's exciting, it's expensive. And when it's terrifying, it may be unavailable. Now I'm going to say something that might make you uncomfortable. That's good. Comfort is what they sell to keep you asleep. Discomfort wakes you up. If you are still relying entirely on paper promises for your life savings, you are betting your retirement on other people's honesty and competence. On bankers, on bureaucrats, on politicians, on institutions that have every incentive to protect themselves first. That is not a bet. That is a blindfold. You earned better than that. You earned the right to protect what you built. So what should you do right now? Third, consider building a physical reserve of silver and gold that matches your comfort level. Not to get rich, to stay free, to stay liquid when others are locked, to stay calm when the herd panics. Because the herd always panics late. They laugh at preparedness until the day they're begging for it. And when they beg, the lifeboats are gone. Now, if you want to survive what's coming, you don't need hope. You need preparation. You need clarity. You need to stop outsourcing your safety to the same system that created the danger. Subscribe to Bull and Bear if you want to survive what's coming. Not emotionally, financially. Because we are not here to entertain you. We are here to wake you up. And I'll leave you with a thought that will stick in your mind like a thorn. When the lights flicker and the screens go gray and the line forms at the bank, you won't care what the talking head said. You won't care what the charts predicted. You won't care what your statement said you own. You will care about one thing: what you can hold, what you can access, what you can control. The clock doesn't announce itself, it just ticks. And one day you look up and the doors are smaller than you remember.